All right, demo E1. So this is just one question. So we're given some information about the traditional toffee market, and we'll talk about a subsidy at the end. So according to tradition, all toffees are essentially made the same way. There's easy entry for firms, so lots of businesses can easily enter the market. And we're told that the number of toffee makers had been constant over the past couple of years. So this gives us a lot of clues. First, that there's homogeneity. All toffees are made the same way. We have easy entry, so it's not difficult to enter with a new firm. And that the number of toffee makers had been constant over the past couple of years. So profits are going to be essentially zero because we're not seeing a lot of entry or exit. But then we're told that the ministry imposed a subsidy on all toffee sales. So, maybe they wanted to encourage, a happier life or something along those lines. So we're asked to use a couple of graphs to illustrate the answer, explaining what happened in the market because of the subsidy. So really, we're not given a whole lot of information here. It's pretty dense. We're told about, the initial equilibrium. We're told about a policy, and then we're told what we should be doing here. So the graph here is going to be pretty complicated. So first, we're going to start in our long-run equilibrium. So we have a supply curve, we have our demand curve, we have our initial equilibrium here in pink. So we have P star, we have Q star, and on the firm side, we have a marginal cost curve, we have a marginal revenue curve, which is simply coming from the price in the market. In perfectly competitive markets, no firm has any individual power over the price. Quantity choices do not impact the price they can charge. We're told that the number of toffee makers have been constant over the past couple of years, so we know profits are going to be zero, which means that ATC will intersect marginal cost at the firm's solution. So this gives us ATC equaling P star at Q star. So this gives us zero profits initially. The second part of this question is to impose a subsidy on this market. And just like we've done in the past, essentially a subsidy just wedges the prices of the buyers and sellers. So we slide this subsidy in from the right until it gets stuck in between the supply and demand curves. This gives us the price for the seller, which is this top point, the price for the buyer, which is this bottom point, and it gives us a quantity after the subsidy, this QS. And what this does for the seller is, because we're subsidizing the sale of toffees, sellers actually get a higher price. So we went from P star to PS. Sellers don't care so much about the price for the buyer, at least not directly. What they're seeing is actually this PS. So because they're seeing PS, it turns out this new PS is their new marginal revenue curve. So that's this green line. And to solve the firm's problem with, after this policy, we just intersect PS, or their marginal revenue, their new marginal revenue after the subsidy. We intersect that with the marginal cost curve. And that gives us the quantity choice of the firm after the subsidy, which I'm denoting as Q prime. So we went from Q star up to Q prime. In the meantime, sort of in this intermediate period, firms make a positive profit. And we can see this because intersecting Q prime with our average total cost curve gives us a difference between the price and the average total cost. So to find profits, we just find the vertical distance between price and ATC, and we multiply that by the base, which is Q prime, just this horizontal base here. So profits become this red rectangle. But we know that in perfectly competitive markets, if there's any profit to be had, firms will enter. And when firms enter, we get a shift in the supply curve. So firms are entering, shifting the supply curve out. And firms are going to continue to enter until profits go back to zero. So we get the shift out in the supply curve until profits go back to zero. So the only point where this is true is when the post-subsidy seller's price is at P star. So firms will continue to enter until the supply curve brings the seller's price back to P star. But what this means is firms are going to continue to enter, shifting the supply curve out, shifting the quantity after the subsidy until it hits this Q prime, is what I'm denoting. And at the same time, this is pushing prices down, both for the seller and for the buyer. So after all this movement, the buyer's price continues to drop. So we further drop the price from PB to P prime B right here. So prices continue to drop for the buyer, and quantity continues to increase. On the firm side, though, before we get entry, we're at Q prime. But as firms enter, driving the price down, we get this shift back towards Q prime. So the firm slowly loses both profits and reduces their quantity of production. Okay, so to sort of conclude here, we say the market starts in a long-run equilibrium with zero profit. The subsidy raises the price for the sellers, raising profits and quantity. This profit leads to other firms entering. We get the shift out in the supply curve, and we get this movement for the price for the seller back down to P star. Okay, I will see you in the next one.